Hello. Okay, so CST 239, trying a new OBS recording software, so I apologize if I can't screen capture my code while I'm talking about it that well, but I figured if I can give you a good description of what I coded, it should help with you going through the source file. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Thankfully, from the first milestone to the second, there was some minimal configuration edits that were needed in the actual classes. Um, some of the things that were prompted within our new milestone goals were two different types of armor, health, and weapons. So, kind of taking from the prompt itself, I was kind of able to see that we were going to have to hard code those in since I had already added an actual way to add product the first time into our hash map. Um, I kind of arbitrarily accomplished that in my first milestone just to test that that was functional. From there, we were given the task of displaying a storefront welcome message. We're going to have interaction at this point, so now we're going from the side of trying to draw perspective as a user, utilizing the storefront class. So we're going to have to develop some interaction, and for me, that was developing some for loops. Challenges from the first milestone to the second were kind of present in the second as well, because some of the code that was required to create the first milestone was also very necessary in creating some of the logic parameters and conditions needed to accomplish what we wanted for the user. From there, we're going to try and have those users enter input from the keyboard to help dictate how the actual application's functioning. And so far, I feel like I've done a good job of accomplishing that. As far as the logic behind the program, it's sound for the purpose, but there are some weaknesses that I've noticed as I've gone through. I haven't had the ability with where I'm at to put in some some actual conditions to catch any sort of invalid inputs. There is an obvious exception to that because I did write loops that would throw an error message if an invalid input was entered at a certain point, but the amount of testing drivers that I'd have to write in order to get it to a point where I could just even consolidate the logic would be tough this week, unfortunately, with just the amount of time I don't have this weekend with work. So I did my best to try and accomplish it as quickly as I could this week. So I'm going to go ahead and start going through the code. So one of the major things that I changed within the soluble product class itself was adding in an actual integer for ID. This was going to also change our soluble product class method within that class as well, because I had to add in another argument that was being passed as a parameter. Everything else was pretty much the same, other than the fact I added another get ID public method within the soluble product as well. It's pretty standard. If I'm adding in the variable, I'm adding in another argument. I'm instantiating uh, an instance of that argument in that construct. It's initialized that particular variable. So that was what made our actual soluble product class good. From there, it was honestly revisiting some of the classes that I had already designed from the original milestone, which did a lot of the work for me within the shopping cart and inventory manager. The actual UMLs that I set up the first week helped actually carry those structures through. For the most part, there wasn't a lot of edits that I needed to make between the shopping cart and the inventory manager, other than some wording within the prints. I also had to take into account, though, um, that there were some things that were going to be changing within my storefront, so I had to figure out the best way to utilize what was created within these two classes to accomplish what we were trying to do for the assignment. So starting off, once you run my program, you'll see I tried to do my best with some examples to print out an actual welcome message. So it starts right at the top, welcome to the tavern, spelled with the letters of each actual letter that's being printed in a larger format. From there, I made sure to keep some of the things that helped dictate and acknowledge to me that I was adding an actual inventory to the hash map. So out of the categories, I picked two different types of weapons, those being mace and a broadsword. From there, the armor, chainmail, and breastplate. And then from there, I had a small health potion and a large health potion. A lot of this is based off of a medieval-based ideology game. I played Diablo a lot growing up, so this kind of came as something that I was, fond of. So from there, I prompted the user, please enter a number or a product ID that's associated with those hard-coded items that I added into the actual storefront inventory. The storefront says here's the inventory list and lists out a actual cost in currency, a quantity per option that's selected. So let's go ahead and show that three, you chose a chainmail and prompts you for quantity. We're only going to want one chainmail breastplate. So from there, I know we're going to need a breastplate. So that's option 4. Press that. We need one of those to go over our chainmail. I don't want to get, killed while I'm out in the wilderness hunting ogres, so I better get myself a weapon. So between the two, I'm not going to lie. I'm just going to go with the broadsword. So there we go. I'm telling it I want one broadsword. We're going to need a couple of potions so we can heal ourselves while we're out killing monsters. So we're going to get a couple larges to heal ourselves all the way up, and why not just get a couple smalls while we're at it so that we also have that. So from there, I've accomplished getting what I wanted out of my visit to the tavern, so I'm going to go ahead and hit option 0, which clearly displays as a way to ring up and total out and display your contents of the shopping cart. So from there, the contents of my shopping cart are displayed. Shows that I purchased a breastplate, a broadsword, 2 small health potions, 2 large health potions, and a chainmail, and I have a total of 37,600 bronze pennies. So in a total, that is what we wanted to accomplish in minimalist amounts of the game functioning. So I feel that I have accomplished that. Now I'm going to go through and try and navigate my storefront code as it was the largest portion of the code that was edited. So a lot of things did stay the same in the sense that we are creating 2 private objects. We're going to go ahead and initialize those within our storefront construct. This creates a new object named inventory manager, a new object named shopping cart. From there, like I said, I went ahead and did my best to create the actual sign that welcomes you to the tavern using some system outprints with various organizational. I had to try a lot, just keep printing until I got that to look right. But more than anything, that's trial and error. That's not really like crazy stuff to code in. From there, I already had the format to add actual soluble products into my hash map. So it wasn't tough to go through and rename those objects into the different actual objects you wanted to load into your storefront inventory. I made sure to give it the right name, a description, a cost, a quantity, and an ID number. So that was the craziest thing at the end there is we're going to give it a new ID number as if you were trying to have an empirical system to try and identify these products. From there, we utilize the inventory manager object in the add inventory method. It's from the inventory manager class that allows you to add these objects and a quantity into the inventory manager objects. So from there, we have our different methods that I went ahead and added into the actual storefront class, that being purchase product and cancel product, which utilizes those 2 objects between the inventory manager and shopping cart and the methods presented within those classes to add those products in that quantity and remove those products in quantity, but in a different order. So obviously for canceling a product, we're going to add that inventory back to our inventory manager object and remove it from the shopping cart, vice versa for the other. Going down to our main, this is where things start to actually get interesting. So we started out by obviously creating a storefront object. From there, we initialize our storefront object utilizing the initialize store method within the storefront class. From there, we created a scanner. Now, that's going to play a part once we need user input. And I also created a variable called quit, and it's a boolean, and it represents false. This has a lot to do with how I generated my while loop to continuously prompt the user for more input. And it's their choice to exit the while loop. So that's how that kind of fundamentally worked out. So while does not equal quit, which means doesn't equal false. Prompt the user for an input. So we go ahead and print out an actual message saying, please enter what you would like to purchase, or 0 to ring up and total out. From there, this is the biggest portion of the explanation within the actual storefront the for loop creates a hash map of the setable product as an object, and an integer, um, or I apologize, for the for loop, a hash map of a soluble product object and an integer named entry. It will then use the storefront object to instantiate the inventory manager object, which has the stored key pairs. We use the get inventory method from the inventory manager class to return a hash map of the soluble product integer type or the inventory of the store. Lastly, use the hash map method entry set to retrieve the key entry set or key value pair in the inventory object. This was a crucial condition call for me to be able to logically parse a known inventory that has been hard-coded in and use those arguments to help a user select a soluble product object and move it to their shopping cart. I know that's a lot of words, but that was basically what I put into the actual commentary reference. And in essence, that is what we're doing. We're creating an actual hash map called entry. From there, we utilize our storefront object and our inventory object to go ahead and utilize the get inventory method and an entry set method that is set to the hash map object. So a lot of words to that. Honestly, it was a lot of object calling and some research in order to accomplish the proper syntax. But that allowed me to create an object of the soluble type named product, set it equal to an object in the hash map named entry, then create an integer named quantity, set that equal to the integer value in the hash map named entry, and then print the storefront object inventory list. So basically, parsing that hash map list and printing it so that the user will have the ability to see what's in the actual storefront. From there, we take their input and store it in a variable named product ID. And then we're going to use some logic if else statements to check whether or not that particular input is going to help us accomplish what we need to do. So essentially, we want them to put in a product ID so that we know what they're choosing. And we're going to check right away to see if it equals 0. If it does, then quit equals true, and we go ahead and we exit out, and we will go ahead and parse through the rest of the code. But we're hoping that it doesn't true so that we can enter our else. And from there, we initialize an object of the soluble product class named selected product, and we set it equal to null. We utilize the for loop that we just used up in the upper portion of this code to again parse through that hash map list and check if a certain argument is equal to the product ID. And in that case, set it to a new selected product variable that we set equal to the entry key and break. From there, we obviously have what we're looking for, which is the product that was selected by the user. So we set that equal to the key, and that's what we wanted to have happen. From there, you're going to enter into the next portion, which is asking you what quantity you want to add. So from there, you'll be able to select the quantity type amount, and then it will display that to you. And until you hit 0 to enter the condition needed to exit the while loop, you can continuously enter in a quantity and an actual product ID number. And that's where some of these error detection and testing points haven't been conducted. I haven't successfully had the ability to write logical conditions to display an error message or stop a user from being able to take more than what's in the inventory. So I actually continuously prompted my storefront class to continuously putting products in my shopping cart regardless of the fact that it was over the inventory status. So it was more than what I had loaded in, and it continuously allowed me to do that into my shopping cart. So I don't have that coded out yet, but other than that, I still have the ability to have a user interact with the storefront class to purchase a product and or at this point, it's only purchasing a product. I haven't had an option to write, or I haven't written code yet for returning or canceling a product, as well as logic operands to prevent us from over ordering. So things to work on, but as you run the code, you can see it's functionable and it's accomplishing what we're looking for in milestone 2. So at the end of the day, thank you.